The EastSide Chapter 15. The room was silent and dark. It must have been around 8 o'clock in the PM, and it felt like I had been staring at the ceiling for hours. I could hear the cold wind pressing against my glass window as the bushes made a rustling noise outside by the concrete wall. I rested my head on the pillow, but the thoughts that were going through my mind were far from peaceful. It was the It was the night of the rumble, and my stomach felt uneasy and had twisted itself in knots. It was like I could feel something bad was going to happen, but I couldn't cower it out now. This is the only way I can end this entire fiasco forever, and I did owe Christian a thing or two. I leaned my head over to look outside the window, and I could see the bright full moon staring back at me, using its glow to illuminate my room. A full moon. My mother always said something crazy always happened during a full moon, and she hasn't been wrong yet. I took a deep breath to try and calm myself down as I looked down at my attire. I was already dressed in a long sleeve, all black thermal shirt with dark jeans and dark sneakers. It felt like I was about to enter into a war, and in my mind, I was. I held the card Teddy gave me in my hand and clenched it tight, not knowing if I would ever see Janelle after this. And what if the last words I told her were that I didn't love her? And the thought made me feel even worse. I kept thinking that if I didn't come back alive, I would never see her again. What she said still lingered in my head about them planning to kill me, but I couldn't leave my friends in this fight. They had fought for me, and I would do the same for them. My only regret would be not telling Janelle how I really felt before I entered into my voluntary doom. I had to remain focused, I told myself. One wrong move, and that would be history. I grabbed onto my mother's ring hanging from my necklace and held it tight while closing my eyes and whispering to myself, it'll be over soon. Mother, please watch over me tonight. As thinking about my mother's soul lifted my spirits. I continued to close my eyes and thought about the outcome until suddenly my thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. I took another deep breath and realized it was time. Time for the end. I slowly removed myself from the bed and walked over to the door and opened it to my surprise. Juice? I asked, confused. What are you doing here? I heard about the rumble tonight, and I want to come get your back. Make sure we take them poppies out tonight, he said, looking around to see if anyone else was home. That's great, but Christian said he only wanted 5 on 5, but we could always use some backup, I suggested. Cool, I'm always down to help family, but I feel a little weird about tonight. I'm having a bad feeling, he said, stepping inside the dark apartment. Yeah, me too, I muttered. You still have that piece I gave you? He asked, eager to know. Yeah, of course, I replied. Good. Bring it with you, just in case. I don't trust these poppies one bit, he said, looking concerned. Are you sure? Yeah, man. Those guys on the west side are known to carry guns. Bring it, just in case. So you're not left naked if some shooting starts, he encouraged. I looked down for a few moments, thinking about yesterday morning and my time speaking about my mother at church. I felt that I did not want to shoot or kill anybody. If I was going to get my revenge, it was going to be by my own fist. So I looked up at Juice and said, I don't know if I could use guns anymore. If shooting starts, I'll just have to take my chances. But I think I'll just give this back to you if you want it. Give it back? He questioned, appalled by my statement. Stop being a vagina. Remember what those guys did to you? Doesn't it still make you angry? This is your time to show them little puppies who the real ruler of the city is. Yeah, But I want to show them by doing it like a real man. I want to show them that I'm not some bumbleclot sissy man, that I can fight with my fists, I said, balling up my hands. A real man or a real dead pretty boy? Rich mocked, rolling his eyes. Look, these guys are ruthless. And they are not going to hesitate to put a bullet in you. So you better bring that gun. And I don't want it back. I want you to keep it and protect yourself. This is the real world. And everybody got guns now. So act accordingly. I don't want to see you get hurt tonight, my man. You're my favorite cousin. Just have it on you. And don't fight me on this. It's for your own protection. Remember what happened to you when you didn't listen to me the first time with those Mexicans. If you brought the bike back to the shop, they would have never found you. So don't be an idiot. Strap up and bring with you tonight. All right? Okay, fine. I said reluctantly. Good. I knew you would come to your senses, he said with a big smile. So, I'm going to go get my boys. We're going to be waiting around downtown park. That's where it is, right? How did you know? I asked, confused. Huh. Word gets around fast when it has something to do with trouble. I'll see you there, he said, turning around to go back outside, but was quickly halted by my next question. Why weren't you at my mother's celebration yesterday? I asked calmly, but slightly upset that he wasn't there. He turned around slowly and began to grin. Come on, Jay. Me in a church? I would burst in flames, he said with a chuckle to himself, but I was still not amused. But it's my mother, I said with my arms crossed. Your mom was great. Everybody loved her, but I just had a lot of planning to do with the North Side takeover. Look, I'm sorry. I'll make it up to you. Give you a month vacation with pay. But I gotta go. We'll see you later tonight with a big grin on my face. Don't forget the gun. Peace, he said before scurrying down the stairs and into the parking lot. Juice was so unpredictable. I never knew what he was really up to, and with a full moon out, I knew I had to use extra precaution with everyone. I watched him pull out of the parking lot in his black Hummer and drive down the road before I closed the door and went back into my room. I reached inside my top dresser drawer and pulled out the black steel 9mm handgun, began to examine the heavy piece of metal. I sat on my bed and held onto the handle tightly as I looked at every single exterior component on the gun. I will admit I was terrified of it, but not because it can hurt me. I was more concerned about what I could be capable of doing with it. If I was angry enough or enraged, could I take a life? I wasn't a killer, and none of my friends were killers, but if we had to protect one another, none of us would hesitate, except maybe Freddie. He'd always been cowardly, in some cases, but I knew he would fight for me. I thought about what Pops had said about that person who was killed. He could be someone's uncle, father, brother. My thoughts were suddenly interrupted by another knock on the door, so I put the gun in my jeans and rushed to open the front door to see Teddy, Greg, Danny, and Andrew standing there, all dressed in dark or all black attire. Each was also wearing a serious face. You ready, big dog? It's time to spank us some poppy behind, Craig said, making hand gestures. Yeah, I'm ready, I said sternly and confidently. Let me just grab my helmet. We out of here. Helmet? Teddy asked, confused. You're not riding with us? No, I replied with a little bit of hesitation. I'm going to go make a quick stop before I go, but I will meet you guys there. Teddy gave me a small grin and nod to indicate that he knew where I was going to go before the rumble. Okay, cool. So we'll meet you there. Don't be late. We need you, Danny said, giving me a strong hand slap, which I repeated with the rest of the boys before rushing into my room to grab my helmet and leather jacket. I watched the guys drive away in Craig's Jeep and followed behind on my black and white motorcycle. I traveled alongside them for a while, then turned onto the highway headed west. The bright streetlights following along the side of the highway reflected brightly off my helmet as it shone in the starlight night. I zoomed past the cars in my traveling lane and maneuvered through the traffic in haste to my destination because I knew that I did not have much time. The breeze from the wind came crashing through my jacket, slightly lifting it up as I drove quickly into the west of town. I knew Christian and his goons were approaching downtown, so I did not feel worried riding there by myself. And I knew that I had to come here one last time before the story ended. I took the exit heading toward West Island High, in determination to fix my wrongs before the night was over. I began riding down the street and pulled up to a red light, so I stopped. Once I stopped, I looked over to the right of me and saw an ambulance on the side of the road. The paramedics were carrying a young boy inside a stretcher from a car accident as his mother was being restrained by a fireman because of her emotional screaming and crying. I stared for a moment at that image, which made me think of my mother and made me wonder if I died today, would she be happy to see me or would she be disappointed in me? The woman cried so loud that I could hear it even inside my helmet and over the noise of cars passing by. I thought to myself, if I died today, I want to die proud. So I quickly accelerated as soon as the light turned green to finally get rid of the demon that was holding me hostage. I drove over to a small bridge overlooking a river and parked my bike on the side of the street. The water looked beautiful as it reflected the moon and the rest of the sky in the dimly lit area. I took off my helmet and placed it on the seat of the bike and could hear the cars vibrate over the bridge as they rushed by. I closed my eyes for a moment and took a deep breath so I could have a quick moment of silence and clarity. I reached into my jeans and pulled out the gun and began to examine it again. Mom, since you died, I haven't tried following in your footsteps. You always made the right decision, and you preached about nonviolence, and you preached about loving your neighbor. Tonight, I can't follow all of your lessons, but I can at least follow one. I said to the sky before I took the heavy firearm and threw it into the river. The object hitting the silent water made a loud splash and then sunk into the bottom of the body of water. A small grin came over me, for I finally knew that I was back to myself again, and I wasn't angry at the world. I wasn't angry at all. I knew that my mother would have wanted me to fight my battles with the body God intended me to use, and not a blunt object that could kill from a distance. The gun did not make me feel more powerful. It was weighing me down, and I knew I did not need it to fight the poppies. I did not need it at all. I slowly walked back to the bike and placed my helmet back on before speeding back off into the night to fix one last wrong that I had caused. I drove quickly down the street until I found myself in front of the high school that started all of my troubles, and I parked in front of it. I removed my helmet and heard the loud bass coming from the school gymnasium where the dance was being held. I placed the helmet on the bike seat and nervously walked up the concrete walkway, heading toward the sliding doors. The music became louder as I walked closer toward the gymnasium. I looked through the window on the doors and saw students dressed up in suits and dresses, dancing on the dance floor, eating food at their tables, or socializing among each other. The room was dark. The only lights that were shining came from the disco ball and strobe lights attached to the ceiling. Long streamers held down from the ceiling as well, which made me notice the large homecoming sign posted on the wall behind the DJ booth. The DJ booth stood next to a wooden table with a white sheet over it. The table had a punch bowl and several other beverages where people were getting drinks. Suddenly, I noticed a beautiful girl in a long white gown with her hair straight, wearing a sad look on her face, holding a cup, standing by herself. I just stood there watching Janelle for a moment, extremely nervous about seeing her after the last time we spoke. But I had to speak to her, so I decided to sneak into the party. I opened the gym door and slowly walked over toward the wall next to it, with my head low, trying to stay unnoticeable. But it was all in vain. Janelle saw me as soon as I walked into the door. I pressed my back against the wall and rested my left foot on it, and looked up to see Janelle staring at me with a surprised but emotional look on her face. We stared at each other for a moment from across the room, both ashamed about the fight and both concerned about how the other person was feeling at the moment. So neither of us budged from our position. I glanced at the middle of the dance floor as she glanced at the same spot, as if we both were thinking the same thing. So I slowly removed myself from the wall and began walking toward the middle of the dance floor. She started to do the same, as we both maneuvered through the traffic of students dancing as the slow melody of the music lessened the crowd to only couples. We finally met at the center of the dance floor and looked deeply into each other's eyes until I slowly placed my forehead against hers, which made her close her eyes in bliss, as we each were yearning for the comforting touch of the other. I could not resist her anymore. I knew I still loved her, as my feelings were finalized when I slowly pressed my lips against hers. She allowed with no resistance. I honestly believed for that moment time ceased to exist, as the minutes seemed endless and too short all at the same time, as we kissed each other slowly and passionately on the dance floor. I removed my lips from hers slowly, gazing into her eyes as she stared back into mine. She couldn't help but smile at me before wrapping her arms around my body, hugging me tightly, which made me do the same to her. I'm sorry for the way I acted. I've just been going through a lot lately, and I blurted out over the music. Jahvon, I'm just glad you're here, she interrupted. I really didn't think I was going to see you again. I know, but I realize if you're not in my life, then my life is incomplete. Since you've been gone, I don't smile, I don't grin, I don't laugh, and I don't live. I've been an empty shell from that night on because my beating heart was still with you. My everything was with you, and all I want is you. I never thought that I could feel like this for anyone, but you're not just anyone, you're mine. No matter what happens after tonight, I want you to know from now until forever, you will always be the only one I love. I confessed to her, letting my words just flow out of my lips without thinking. She watched me speak to check if my sincerity was genuine, gazing at me as if she was dissecting each and every word. After she took a deep breath to prevent herself from getting too emotional, she gently held my hand and said, "That's all I needed to know. I love you too, and I'm never going to leave your side again." I gently kissed her on her forehead before she began to guide me back toward the table with all the drinks, pulling me by my hand. My aunt has a place in Miami. She said we could live in her loft, and I could finish classes at the school over there, so Christian can't find us. My dad will just have to understand. Now you don't have to fight tonight, she began, blabbing excitedly and pulling my hand. I'm not running away, I said, pulling my hand from hers, making her come to a complete stop. I'm still going to the Rumble tonight, so I can end all of this. Are you suicidal? She asked with an attitude. I was being serious. They plan on killing you tonight. My friends need me, and I can't let them down. Not tonight. I can end all of this. We'll win, and Christian going to let you go, I explained. Christian's a liar, and he's not going to let you leave that park alive. And he's not just going to give up on me. He's ruthless, and I don't want to see you get hurt or worse. Just please, Let's just pack up and go. Then you'll have me. If I'm the type of person that will leave my friends to fight my fight while I disappear into the night, then I don't deserve you. This is something I can't run from. I love you, but tonight I have to do what I gotta do, I stated before turning around to walk out of the gym. Jahvon, don't! She exclaimed, grabbing my arm to pull me back. I began to see her eyes look desperate with fear, trying to speak reason into my ears. I don't want you to die. That makes two of us, I said, wiping a single tear from her cheek. I'll fight for both of us tonight. And live or die, you always have my heart. I reached in to pull her close to me, before giving my love one long kiss, as if it was for the last time, and rushed out of the gymnasium doors as she stood still for a moment, trying to comprehend the events that had just taken place. I knew it was close to 11 o'clock, and I was going to be late to the rumble, so I did not want to waste time. I quickly jogged down to my motorcycle, waiting for me on the side of the street. I placed my helmet on and revved the engine after turning on the ignition. The roaring sound of the engine inside the helmet prevented me from hearing the calls of Janelle running out of the sliding doors, yelling my name. I began to accelerate as she finally reached a few feet from my location, trying to get my attention, but failed as I quickly rode down the road on the speedy contraption until the sound of the engine was a tiny feint to her. I rode quickly, trying to rush so I could reach downtown Park on time for the showdown, which I was looking forward to. Christian and I would finally settle our feud once and for all. I must admit, the thought of hurting him brought enjoyment to my face. The loud winds flew through my jacket, and the streetlights glared off my helmet as I reached the highway, maneuvering through traffic. I rode the highway until I reached downtown exit, which was saturated with bright lights from the gigantic video monitor and large basketball stadium and the tall high risers. Company labels were glowing on the top of the center of each one. The city looked so beautiful at night, and the view from the highway was in the perfect location to accent the beauty of the well engineered buildings. The closer I got to the park, the less lights that shone in the pitch black night. Once I finally reached the park, I could see Craig's Jeep in the parking lot and Christian's red Camaro, so I knew that they were already here. I quickly parked the bike and approached slowly around the brick fence where I could hear voices speaking. So where's your boy at? I could hear Christian saying from the other side of the wall. Don't worry, he would have never missed a chance to whoop your bitch ass, Teddy answered. Oh, how do you suppose he will be doing that? Christian asked smugly, mocking Teddy's comment. From behind, I yelled out, coming from the back of the brick wall and placing my two hands together, creating a powerful fist, and assaulting him in the back of his head. I could hear all my friends cheer as they began to attack the group of Hispanic men without warning. I did not wait for Christian to get up to his feet before I started kicking him incessantly, trying to keep him down. I could hear Teddy and the one they called M. Slugger beginning to punch each other and roll on the ground, trying to best each other's strength. Motherfucker, Christian said, finally getting to his feet and putting up his fist to indicate that he was ready to continue the fight. I placed myself in a boxer stance and began to approach him, taking a few swings but missing as his quick reflexes eluded my attempt. I took another swing which missed again, so Christian capitalized by landing a right hook on my cheek and a left jab on my nose, which made me stumble. Aware of my stumbling, he quickly grabbed me by the front of my head to collide my face with his knee. This made me stumble backwards and lose my balance. Man, you suck, Christian mocked. This is going to be easier than I thought. I wiped my face with my jacket sleeve and stood to my feet angrily. He began to taunt me with his hand. He moved his fingers back and forth to indicate for me to come over to him, which made me more upset by his vanity. I slowly removed my jacket so I could be able to move more agile from the reduced weight as he smiled confidently. I placed my fist back into the air to show him I was ready for a second round, as we could hear the rest of our party fighting each other in the background. I walked over to him slowly, connecting a jab to his nose, which made him flinch and swing back, but he missed my face entirely. I landed a second jab and then a third, but he began swinging more, but only connecting to 5% of his swings. His hands were in the air close to his face, so I noticed he was unguarded in his lower half of the body. So I gave him a swift kick in his gentleman's area, which made him grab in between his legs. He left his face unguarded, so I landed a hard right uppercut to his chin, making him stumble to the ground as blood flew from his nose. "You dirty beast!" he said, wiping his nose while sitting on the moist floor, trying to lift himself up. "You think you're going to beat me? I'm king of this city. I run shit around here. You just pay rent. Janelle will never be with a loser like you. And even if she did, you two will never be safe. And you talk too damn much," I roared, interrupting his speech with a quick right hook to his jaw as he was trying to stand to his feet. He slammed against the ground again as I grabbed him by the leg and dragged him next to a wooden bench that I used as support while I stomped on his body with my foot. He quickly grabbed my foot and twisted it. This made me trip and hit the ground. I tried to get myself back to my feet, but he attacked me by slamming me to the ground again and began punching my face. I used my arms as a shield from his attacks. I used my left knee as a weapon and slammed it against his gentleman's area again, which made him roll over, holding in between his legs in the fetal position. This gave me time to get to my feet. I grabbed him by his shirt and slammed him against the wooden bench with much force. His nose began to bleed some more as I stood over him exhausted and breathing heavily. "You lose, Poppy. You don't run shit. Get your boys and leave Janelle alone." "Sure. But after you," Christian said, devilishly, pulling out his .38 Magnum handgun from his back pocket and turning around quickly to point it at me. I walked backwards with my hands in the air to indicate that I was unarmed and that I meant him no more harm. He just stared at me angrily, getting back to his feet and cocking back the gun to put a bullet into the chamber. "I told you, beast, I don't lose. You think I was going to just let the outcome of this story end between you and me in a fist fight? No. Oh no. I'm going to leave a nice corpse that they can find on the news tomorrow, because you are not going to leave this park alive. A gun's a coward's weapon. Come and finish fighting me like a man," I said with force. "Well, I guess you're going to be one dead man, and I'm going to be one smart coward," he said, raising the gun higher toward my head as I stood there brave but nervous that this was going to be the end. I did not want to die. I felt that I had so much more to live for, and I wanted to be there for Janelle and love her. But I won't get the chance if Christian kills me, I thought to myself, before I saw Teddy rush Christian from his left side and grab his arm to remove the gun from his hand. "No!" Teddy yelled out, struggling to remove the gun from Christian's hand. "Drop it, you little bitch!" "Get off of me!" Christian yelled out, trying to shake off Teddy's grip. They fought for a moment until a gunshot went off, and they both looked at each other with a surprised and shocked look on their faces. Christian walked back slowly, looking down at Teddy's chest until Teddy collapsed onto the ground. "Teddy?" I said slowly, still not knowing how to react as Christian looked at me and Teddy, then began to run away toward the parking lot. I began to walk over to Teddy slowly, still calling his name, unsure on the situation. "Teddy? Are you okay?" He did not answer. I could see that everyone in the fight, who were now battered and bruised, had stopped fighting and began looking toward Teddy in my location. I knelt down in front of him and turned his body over to lie on his back to see Teddy's chest completely covered in blood. Ah! That made me scream. My screams were so loud and fierce that they made everyone stand back. They were alarmed at my outburst and wondered what was happening. Teddy! No, no. You're bleeding, man. We have to get you to a hospital. Someone call 911, I said, trying to use my long sleeved shirt to dry and soak up the blood. I don't think I'm going to make it, Jay. I feel cold, Teddy whispered, looking out into the horizon. Don't say that. Call 911, damn it! I continued to comfort him and yell to the others for assistance. You're going to be okay. Why did you do that, you big bear? He looked up at me and whispered with a grin. Like I said in the hospital, I got your back. I'm never going to let these guys hurt you again. And besides, you have way more to live for than I do. No, you have a lot more to live for. You have your cooking and your culinary school. Remember? Cooking with Teddy. Remember your cooking with Teddy idea? You're going to be a star. No, not anymore. Tonight, I did something more important. I saved your life so you could be there for your child, Teddy whispered, holding my hand. My child? What are you talking about? I asked, confused. Janelle's pregnant. She told me when I gave her a ride home on your birthday, Teddy explained. What? No, no, what? I stuttered, still confused. She did not want to tell you, so you would only be with her for the kid. She did not want to burden you. She found out a few weeks ago. That is why she ran away from her house. She loves you, and I know you would be a great father. I just wish I could be there to see him or her grow up, Teddy explained with a grin. Oh my God, Teddy, I'm going to be a father? I asked, still shocked by the news. I don't want you to leave me, Teddy. Try and fight. You can be its godfather. I know you can fight this big man. Please. My pleading made both of us start to have tears emerge from our eyes as I held his hand, while everyone began to walk over to us, watching the man dying in front of us, except Danny, who came running, hanging up his cell phone and saying, The ambulance are on their way. I don't think it matters, Teddy said, depressed. Jahvon, just do me a favor. If it's a boy, just name your firstborn after me so at least he will have a cool name. I promise, I said, still getting more teary eyed. I'm sorry, Teddy. This is all my fault. I should have never let you fight in my fight. No, Jay. This is all of our faults. We were so quick to hate each other and jump into a fight we didn't even truly realize what we are fighting each other for. You said it in church yourself that we are savages, that we don't think for ourselves. We never took the time to talk things out or compromise. We rather destroy each other's homes and buildings before picking up a phone and discussing the situation. War is a fickle thing because we are so quick to enter into competition, but there's never a true victor, just more dead bodies. We need to stop hating one another because you and Janelle are living proof that we can actually like each other once we got to know each other. Let's stop hating each other because of what side of the city lines we live on and love each other because we share the same city. This is our city. This is our world. Teddy's speech was interrupted by his eyes beginning to look lifeless. Teddy! Teddy! I yelled out, shaking him, trying to keep him conscious. Teddy, tell us a joke. Come on, please. I, I, he stuttered for a moment, trying to come back to life. Tell my mother I love her. Go eat something, Slim. You skinny bastard. I gave him a grin, thinking his sense of humor meant that he was going to be okay, until I could tell he wasn't breathing, and his facial expressions did not change. So I began to shake him again and lightly slapping him on the face to wake him up, but he just laid there, lifeless. Teddy! Teddy! I screamed out, but got no response. But I kept screaming until my voice became hoarse. Teddy!